Here's something I've been wondering about lately. It seems like the only stories people are interested in are the dark, twisted, tragic, and just plain old depressing stories. This is something I have been thinking about for quite a while, and I feel like it kind of ties in a little bit to celebrating YA in August for the August reading event. So I thought I would finally film this video that I've been thinking about forever and talk about it a little bit and see what you guys think. My thought is, just because everyone seems to really like the dark stories, does that mean that's the only kind of story that's worth telling or worth reading? Like, is there a place for the happier, lighter side of things? Why is it that darkness in books is so popular? Not to say that anything's bad about that. I'm just wondering why people are gravitating towards it more than they used to. Almost every book I hear people talking about on BookTube, or every book that seems to be really popular, even if it seems like it's a lighter book, there's always an underlying story that's kind of depressing and difficult, or darker, if you want to use that word. Like, people's backstories always have abuse in them, it seems like, or some sort of terrible traumatic thing that's happened. I was just finished reading My Friends, and it's a happy book. It's about friendship, but it's also highlighting the abuse that those kids went through, which a lot of books seem to do. Like, there's always, seems like like I said a minute ago, seems like there's always an abuse backstory, or, a terrible drunken dad or something. I don't know. And so I'm just wondering why we think that is happening. And not to say that the dark stories and books are not good. They're really good, and I understand it because I gravitate towards those hard-hitting, heart-wrenching stories also. But why is that? Why do we think that's happening? So some of the reasons that I've thought of is having some traumatic thing happen is maybe some sort of shared experience with a lot of people, and we can relate to it. Maybe it's because of the crazy things that are happening in the world, and we all need some sort of shared collective way to deal with it. Maybe it's helping us deal with our high emotions right now, or we're facing fears. Maybe people think that the darker stories are more realistic. If things are too happy, that's not realistic, and that's not being honest about life. And people also seem to think that dark stories are more serious and mature, and that the lighter, happier things are more babyish or childish. And also, dark stuff seems to be more clickbaity. The algorithm likes it better. The shocking, high-stakes content, the algorithm likes better. I think people think that because our world is so dark and chaotic, that those are the only stories that feel honest. I don't know. I'm wondering what you guys think about that. As a writer, we learn that when we're creating a story, there has to be conflict. And I feel like creating conflict with some sort of darker, edgier thing is maybe easier to do and makes more sense. And people can understand it better. I don't know. What do you think? The other thing that is interesting is that I think light stuff and happy stuff sort of has a stigma. People think of it as sort of unrealistic, like I said before, sort of cringy. And everybody thinks that in order to learn something, you got to go deep and gritty, and that joy and softness and happiness is surface level and not worth our time. Somewhere along the way, it became sort of cool to feel these dark emotions, and it's sort of embarrassing to feel joy. But my whole point in this is that it's important that we have the happy stories along with the dark stories so that we can feel hope, and we can feel healing, and we can feel joy. That it's going to help us in the dark times to have books like that. And that reading and consuming stories for escapism is not a weakness, but it is more of a relief to some of these things that we're dealing with. Do stories need to be dark in order to be good? Can they be good if they're happy and light and fluffy? You hear me talk about happy and light and fluffy all the time. And I talk about it sort of snarkily because I know that everybody sort of looks down on that. But can they be good books still if they have those elements. Do they have to have something dark in them in order to be a good story? What I want to throw out is that maybe not every story has to like gut you, but it can mend you back together again instead. I feel like as a reader, it's okay to want to consume and to read and to enjoy the light and happy, fluffy stuff. And connecting this to Yagist, I think a lot of people think YA books kind of fall in this category more than maybe adult books do. Although I still maintain that there is a ton, especially lately, of YA books that have this element in their books also. This kind of dark, heavy stuff that's in a lot of YA books. But maybe there's more to be found that are light and happy and fluffy, which I seek out all the time. I want to throw it out there that if you are one like me who enjoys these kinds of books, that does not make us any less deep or make our reading any less valuable or make us not a naive person, but that we are still valid in this reading life, in this reading world, even if we don't necessarily seek out some of these heavier books, and that we don't necessarily need more darkness, but we need more balance with the stories. I think another place I'm coming from is that that's the kind of story I'm wanting to write, and I feel like it's not going to be marketable because they're too light and happy and surface level, shall we say. And so I want to champion the light stories because that's the kind of ones I want to write. Where the problems people are having are not these really heavy, hard things, but just sort of like more quote unquote normal things, or things that, every kid deals with. Like every kid, feelings of self-worth and feelings of wanting people to like them and that kind of stuff. Okay, so I just want to end with that thought that even though those books are great and wonderful, I just feel like it doesn't have to include those elements in order to be a good story. There can be good stories that are a little lighter and a little happier also, and that it doesn't make us any less of a reader if we gravitate towards those lighter, happy books. I would love to know what you guys think and to discuss this in the comments or do a response video or whatever you want to do. I just really, really, really would love to know what you think about this, and if you feel like some of my points are valid or if you think I'm kind of way off. Anyway, this is one, like I said, a video I've been wanting to do forever, and I've been really kind of nervous about how to approach it, and so hopefully I managed to at least hit some of the points somehow. Until next time, happy reading. Bye!